Hello, hello. Are we out there? The time delay of the live is always a killer. How is everybody? Happy Thursday. Happy February 15th. How was your Valentine's Day? Did you share lots of love with everyone around you? My kids were so cute yesterday. They were trying to understand why they didn't have a big party at school instead of just the little party that they had. And I reminded them, or informed them. I don't want to say reminded because I don't know that it's ever been stated, but I said it's just a little holiday, not a big one. And they said, well, how come? Love is the most important thing. Shouldn't that be the biggest holiday of all? And I thought that was so sweet. So yeah, sending you a little love. Happy Valentine's Day. I hope you had an awesome, awesome day yesterday. Today is day 3. Our time together is coming to an end. It's like the anticipation and the build up to the event is always keeping me busy. I don't really think about it. And then, when we come to day 3, I'm kind of like, oh, sad. We're coming to an end, but there will be more. I am not going anywhere. I can promise you that. We will be offering lots of training. So keep an eye on this group. Hi, Shelly. I don't actually have people on the Zoom right now. I'm using Zoom to go into Facebook because I had some volume issues, some audio issues the other day when I tried to just use Facebook Live. But if you want to do a Q&A tomorrow where we're all on Zoom and everybody can kind of chime in and ask questions, I'm happy to do that. I was planning on offering that. So thank you for prompting me. That's beautiful. It is more fun that way to see your faces for sure. So maybe we can do this via Zoom as well next time. That would be awesome. Great idea. So yeah, and end of the event on day 3. I'm just kind of feeling the nostalgia. I love being here with you guys. I love seeing all of your comments and spending time. Right? It's a lonely world here in online business. So I love the moments where we get to spend some real time. How are you guys feeling about what we've experienced so far? How are you feeling about your newfound awarenesses? Hello, April. Hello, hello. Are you feeling ready to take back the reins of your life? And or as a coach, are you feeling more empowered, more informed as it relates to trauma and being able to help your clients move forward and help spread the word of trauma awareness? And trauma, becoming trauma informed is no longer just for the specialized therapists, which is really mind-blowing that there really isn't even a specific program. So I'm studying clinical psychology through Capella University, and there is no program that I can choose to hone in and focus in on trauma. And so while that's kind of a bummer for our therapists and our mental health professionals, it's okay because it's not that difficult. And obviously, after having lived it and healing my own wounds, it is very possible for us all to become trauma informed. And like I've said, utilizing our body, learning to work with our nervous system, it's like a basic life skill next to brushing your teeth and going to the gym. This is something that's going to be collectively known globally. So are you ready? Are you ready to be a leader in this movement? Are you ready to heal your own wounds? Are you ready to learn how to leverage the natural healing ability of your body and the innate wisdom of your body? Shelly says, yes, yes, yes. Informed, thirsty for more. Awesome. Yay. Yes, I will tell my story. I promise we'll get there. It's funny because I kind of don't like doing it, but as leaders, we do what we don't want to do because we have to lead by example. So I absolutely will. We'll get there. Let me warm up to it. Wanted to kind of share with you a couple more of the behaviors to look out for or trauma responses, things to look out for either in your own life or in our client's life. I mentioned doom scrolling yesterday. It's very, very common for people, even if it's not social media, even if it's educational, right? I kind of fell into that trap where I use YouTube to look for more information, the seeker, the incessant seeking. They're looking for something, constantly consuming all of this knowledge, but never actually taking action on the things that they learn. Again, that's that dorsal vagal state where we're in consumption mode. We're constantly bringing in, but it's too dangerous to share. And that's really the point of gaining knowledge, is then to turn around and pour it into others. So very rarely if this is a trauma response, something I'm helping you kind of identify in others, is looking out for those who are constantly in consumption mode and not spending an equal amount of time implementing or doing the things that they've learned how to do or pouring into others. Many people scroll on Facebook for hours and they will repost other people's content, and that kind of makes them feel like, well, I'm sharing, I'm giving, I'm teaching, right? But really they're still hiding behind someone else's little icon on that post. And there's a conundrum, or sort of the battle of the brains again. I want to be a leader, I want to pour into others, I want to be a coach, I want to step into my purpose, but I can't get myself to hit post on that post that I spent hours perfecting, right? And so there's sort of the jealousy of watching other people do it, and maybe even a little bit of hate sometimes will come up in them that I could do it as well as they could. And yet also there's a level of self disrespect, right? They have not met the commitments that they have made to themselves to step into their purpose or to become the leader. And so then they'll regret the time that they spent on social media. And there's a subconscious knowing that that time should be spent on building their own brand or creating their own content. They will, like I said, perfect the content over and over and over and over and never actually hit post. I have had many clients who will tell me, I worked on this post for hours, but I just can't bring myself to post it because it's just not good enough. Right. So definitely that freeze state is something to watch out for. Oftentimes someone who maybe had religious trauma, sexual trauma, even just not being seen or heard, or being shut down, or their emotions were discredited or invalidated. They will very often lack a sense of trust in themselves, and they're looking for others to kind of tell them what to do or give them permission. So that usually goes hand in hand with some of these trauma responses or behaviors. And then, of course, they get frustrated with their lack of progress, and they try to force themselves through willpower, which willpower will never work. We've talked about, right? The intelligent brain is always overridden by the limbic system because of that sense of safety. And so then they will fall back into, isolation or depression, or just that feeling of being paralyzed. And it's difficult when they try to use willpower to force themselves, and maybe they do post a couple of videos, but that is so exhausting that they fall back into that paralysis again. The fear of rejection, the fear of criticism, who saw me, what are they talking about? It almost can create sort of a paranoia even. Other times people will spend a lot of time in meditation and preparation and getting ready. They never actually move past the preparation or healing phase. They're perpetually stuck in hermit mode. They'll often tell me they're meditating, waiting for guidance. They're looking for the next right step, and that never seems to come. Or maybe they'll get, they'll receive the guidance. You have everything you need within you. And there's sort of a lack of understanding of what that actually means. So again, just kind of want to bring some of these behaviors forward so that as coaches, we can either see them in ourselves or see them in clients to help them realize that it's a nervous system issue. It's a body issue. It's not a cognitive processing issue. It's not a willpower issue. It's not a motivation issue. There's nothing wrong with them. They're just pulling the wrong levers, right? And oftentimes, especially in the spiritual world, anyone who's aware of energy, loves meditation, all of these things, there's also a level of toxic positivity that comes with that. We talk about raising our vibration and having to stay high all the time. And it's a bit of spiritual bypassing, really, to not be willing to look at the shadow. And there's a clinging in that I think is subconscious, obviously below our conscious awareness, where we are not willing to some extent. We are clinging to the belief in protecting ourselves, or protection through not looking at things. So there's a clinging in that, but then there's also a fear, I think, around going into the heavier emotions, looking at the shadow. Many people will either fear getting stuck there or fear that they're creating more of that because they're not in that high vibration. And I love, love, love the analogy of a woman that I saw on the show Hoarders. Um, I don't watch a lot of TV. I don't watch hardly any TV anymore. And when I was watching, I only watched one or two of these episodes. It was just a bit too much to bear. But as we know, hoarding oftentimes is a mental health issue where there's a clinging to things, not just physical outside of ourselves, but the emotional inside as well. And I see this a lot in clients where we fear the letting go, and we fear that diving into the shadow is going to pull us back into that place. So this woman on the Hoarder show, someone had called for intervention. I'm not exactly sure who. I want to say it was the neighbors. It was so long ago, I can't be certain, but the intervention team came to the house and they knocked on the front door and nobody answered, and they weren't even able to open the front door because there was so much stuff in her house. And so they went around to the back and they found that there was a pathway through the back door, and the trash was just a mile high. It was almost all the way up to the ceiling, and there was just this very narrow path for them to walk through. And they went through a couple of rooms before they found the woman sitting on a mattress on the floor, completely surrounded by garbage. There was no sheets on the bed. There was just nothing but garbage. There was a second floor. They couldn't even get up to the second floor. And she had kids in this house at one point, and they had all left the house. And one of the men sat down by her on the mattress, and he asked, how are you? And sort of warmed up to it. And then he picked up a popsicle stick, and he said, would you mind if I throw this away? And she said, no, that popsicle is very important to me. It was my son's popsicle stick. And he ate that popsicle when he was 7 years old or whatever she said. And it really just like it that memory of that show and how she clings to things and how it's important to her and how there's memories connected to it. And even though she's suffering, clearly she is not living life because of all the things that she is clinging to. She can't see that the letting go will actually free her because of all of the clutter that's in her environment. It's like trying to see the forest through the trees. She had this need. She felt that it met a need, right? So anything that we do, this is a really important point to notice as well, especially as it relates to helping clients or even just having compassion for people out in the world, is every single thing a person does is driven by a belief that it is going to either keep them safe or help them survive. So even when that rude person walking past you on the street refuses to acknowledge you, or you give them a hi and a hello and they grunt as they walk by, right? There's something in that person that believed that he needs to be gruff. He needs to be tough. He can't be soft, right? That's driven by his desire to survive and to survive and thrive. And that was the same with the woman in the story. And this is the same for the people that we work with, that their behaviors, even though they seem unresourceful, are driven by a subconscious belief that it's going to create safety or help them avoid pain, right? So the key is waking up to our divinity, remembering the truth of who we are, remembering. And I because like I said, have a religious background. I have a lot of biblical knowledge in my brain, but there are many stories. It goes across all religions, the not all religions, but many religions, the creation story. And I did a YouTube video quite a while back now, just researching the different meanings to the names that different cultures and religions will use for their God. And what it boiled down to was every single one. I don't think there was one. When I traced it back to the root origins of each of those words, they all meant creator. And so it really, regardless of the religion, doesn't matter. We all know what that divine creator energy feels like. And remembering that we were created in the likeness of our creator is so incredibly important to remind our clients of that if you go with the biblical story, that our creator laid down in the dirt, made an imprint of itself in the dirt, and then breathed the breath of life into that body to animate it. That is us in every single one of us. Not a single person. I'm just covered in goosebumps right now. Not a single person is lacking that divinity, we have to remember that we are the most favored creation, that everything else was labeled good and we were labeled very good, right? That the divine cares about us and wants us to succeed and to come back to wholeness. And that's what this process is all about. The divine lives in us. And so when we are disassociated from our body, we are separate from everything that we seek: the love, the joy, the abundance, the peace, the bliss, the wholeness, the oneness, the confidence, the health, the wealth, all of it. It's all in us. And coming back to the realization of our divinity and understanding who we are, how could you be anything but worthy? Once you realize that, once you awaken to that and you feel it in your body, you know it. There is such a huge difference between knowing with your prefrontal cortex and the embodiment of absolute, unshakable certainty. And when you can remember your divinity and you embody that knowing of wholeness, perfectly imperfect for your purpose, every ounce of you, every mistake, every experience, everything is in perfect divine order for the thing that you came here to do. That's when we start to remember, and we know, and we can feel confident, we can feel unshakable in what we are doing and what we are saying. There's an identity crisis in the world today, that we're constantly searching for validation outside of us. Let me buy this thing. Let me do this thing. Let me accomplish this thing. Let me prove my value and worth. We'll never get the validation we seek from outside of us. It will only come from within. And I love the understanding that you only receive the validation that you're seeking outside of yourself once you no longer need it, because you have it within you, right? Even in the face of criticism, even in the face of rejection, it does not matter anymore, because you know so deeply within you that how a person is behaving says everything about them. It tells you what they're experiencing or what they're perceiving, and it says so little about you and your value and worth. Absolutely, Shelley. As within, so without. Micro, macro, right? As above, so below. Again, written by so many wise teachers and in so many ancient books of wisdom. It's undeniable. And then you start living it, and then, like I said, you're unshakable. There's just such a knowing within you that it cannot be taken from you. And that's the beauty. That's the beauty of all of this, is once you have it inside of you, nobody can take it away. Nothing can shake you, right? The evidence of acceptance shows up when it isn't needed. And I think that came from Melanie Anlayer as well. When you stop needing approval and validation, that's when you're going to receive it. That is the beauty of this work as well, either for the people who are wanting to step into their purpose or who are already coaching. You have such an understanding of your own value and worth, and then you start to show up authentically, you show up unapologetically, you show up powerfully. Then your gifts start to come online. Then you find people who need what you have to offer are drawn to you. And so then you start to receive the gift of the mirror of people reflecting your value and worth back to you. But again, it all started within, right? I had a client, Corey. She's one of my favorite stories. She experienced sort of I would say sort of an abandonment, but her parents were divorced. And when her parents divorced, her mother essentially did not engage in her life much. There was some, but not much. And so Corey really felt abandoned by her mother. Her father was emotionally unavailable. Her stepmom was hypercritical, accusing her of doing things that she really didn't do. And I've come to understand that when parents do this, they're projecting their own own issues or their own mistakes, right? Things that they did as a kid, they're afraid of the child doing. But what happens for someone like Corey is we internalize, or I often say we. I like to speak with you and not at you. So if you hear me saying we, that's why I do that. I can't be the one to be like, you did this and you did that, right? We're all in this together. But we internalize this belief that there must be something wrong, even though I didn't do that thing that she's blaming me of, right? I think it was sexually related, that her mother was accusing her of sleeping around when Corey was not doing that. And by the way, I do have permission to tell this story. So I am always very, very careful about trust and not saying things about clients that I shouldn't. So Corey has publicly shared her story on my YouTube channel. So we actually we work together often, so it's good. But point being, she very much lacked a sense of trust in herself, and she was constantly looking for permission from other people, right? Is it okay for me to do this thing? Even when she had a deep desire to step into her purpose, and she would constantly pivot, right? Try the YouTube channel, try the local women's shelter, try the church, try the, trying all these different things, trying to find what she knew her heart was calling her to. But then that lack of trust, because of the lack of support from her father, the abandonment from her mother, the hypercriticism from her stepmother, it causes this fracture within us where we can't be certain, am I okay? Right? Am I doing the right thing? And so it creates such a sense of unsafety in the nervous system that it's paralysis, essentially, or for many, constant pivoting, also a trauma response, because we're deceiving ourselves by creating this false sense of progress, right? I start doing this business, and then when I get to the point of having to be seen, then I pivot, right? And then I'll start learning something about this new business, and then when it's time to be seen, I'll pivot, right? Again, so trauma response. So for Corey, she was struggling with depression, anxiety, just basic general malaise, very much in a freeze state. She was people pleasing, fawning, self-sacrificing, had a narcissistic relationship that she was still trying to fully exit, very much struggled with the lack mentality, never enough money, never enough support, things of that nature. And she, again, was just sort of foregoing her dreams because she lacked the faith and the trust in herself and her passions. Come to find out, at the end of our year together, we ended up coming right back around to the very first thing that she had said to me. And this is another important point as coaches. We have to let the client lead. We cannot solve the problem for them. We cannot tell them what they should do. We have to allow them to come to the understanding on their own. This is a really important part of the trauma spotting and the coaching when we're helping them heal the trauma. Is I can sit here and tell you the things that you should believe, or the things you should think, or the things you should know. But if you don't come to that understanding on your own, you will not be able to embody it. You will keep it up in your intelligent prefrontal cortex, but it will never go into, and I don't want to say never, but it's much more difficult for you to ingrain it in your subconscious program, which is your automatic program, if it's just someone telling you something and you haven't come to that embodiment. So by letting Corey go through her process of pivoting and supporting her, but helping her see, we're pivoting again. Are you sure this is what we want to do? Right? Really being that mirror and helping her see the patterns. Eventually, we came right back around to what is now Apothecary. She is amazing with plants, and she creates beautiful little tinctures and healing, I don't want to say potions, but we work with the divine in creating healing energy through her concoctions. We'll put it that way. So the amazing part is the whole year she went through the traditional healing arc. We had the wave of sort of, I hate to say tiredness, but there is a decompression that happens where the body releases the trauma. And then right around the 6-month mark, you're like, you know what, I'm good. I don't really need to pursue my passion or my purpose because I'm so happy and content right now. I'm good. And then right around that 9 to 12-month mark, the energy picks back up and they're like, okay, I'm healed. I'm rejuvenated. I'm re-energized. I'm ready to go. I want to pursue my passion. And that's when for Corey, she just exploded. She had started a YouTube channel prior to our meeting. It was in, I think, a couple thousand at that point. Her YouTube channel took off. She has more than 10,000. I think she might be at 12,000, somewhere around there. On top of that, she was offered not one, but 2 raises with her company that she was working at the time. In addition to those 2 raises, the opportunity to move to South Carolina in a promotion. And then she momentarily accepted that. And then because of the explosive progress in her YouTube channel and her coaching business, she actually ended up taking those raises and then quitting. So it was just this, it was like the doors of of abundance opened up to her, right? Because she had relieved her body of all of these blocks, and she no longer had that fear. She was no longer hiding herself. And her intuition has gone through the roof. She uses cards, but it's more of a like a crutch, right? It's more of a thing to do with your fingers while she's receiving messages. So I can't even believe how far she has catapulted in such a short amount of time since we've worked together. So that's just one story. And Corey will say, and others have as well, I feel like a new person, right? Or it feels like coming home. I think that's the thing I hear the most often, is that coming home to ourselves. Another client, Robin, she amazing tarot card reader, intuitive. She again was in that stuck freeze state, and she said to me the other day, not too long ago, she said, I never thought I would accomplish anything in my life. I never could have imagined the person I would have become. And it hasn't even been 6 months since we stopped working together, and she continues. She's booked out. People come to see her. Her YouTube channel is doing well. It's just incredible, the growth that comes from this. So it all starts with becoming the person that you were made to be, returning to, realigning to your original design, back to the person you were born to be before the world changed you, right? So we have to know that we are an energetic match to every single thing that we seek. It is safe to trust the guidance of the desires of your heart. Amanda Francis, thank you. Right. So just remember, this is how we align. This is how we shift our vibration and our frequency. For anybody who was not here yesterday or did not watch the replay, I'm feeling called to kind of recap the manifestation mechanism that is our brain and our body, and why our nervous system matters so much. This is how we become the energetic match. And this is psychology, this is neuroscience, this is spirituality, it's all the things, right? Because it's all interconnected. But everything starts with our foundational beliefs, right? Our beliefs are formed from the programs, the mirrors that we received, the programs, the mirrors reflected to us when we were young, right? So from the program, subconscious program becomes the belief. From the belief, our thoughts. From our thoughts, the chemistry that is flooding our body. That creates an emotion, which is energy in motion, which is your frequency and your vibration, which is your attraction point that draws more to you. So it all starts with healing the trauma, removing the subconscious program, allowing the body to be in safety so that the mind is not flooding the body with stress hormones. It is flooding the body with beautiful growth hormones and happy hormones like serotonin and dopamine, which is your frequency and your vibration, which is your attraction point and how you manifest. I love the awareness around emotion as the source of creation. And it goes beyond just vibrating high. It also incorporates the willingness to be with ourselves, to be with those little girls and little boys inside of us who need our attention, who need our awareness, to be with that stuck emotion in our body so that it can move through, and then we can shift back into the higher vibrations, right? Okay, so now for my story, but before I do, let me check and see what everybody's saying. Ho'oponopono is amazing, Judy. You are so correct. Absolutely, absolutely. What's interesting is I have done Ho'oponopono before and after trauma healing. And before trauma healing, there was sort of a sandpapery feel when I said the I'm sorry part, because it felt as if I was apologizing to people who I deserved an apology from. And I could not fully get behind the I'm sorry, because I felt like, you know what, I'm not sorry. I'm not sorry that you touched me when you shouldn't have. I am not sorry that you said those things that you shouldn't have. And I just realized I have a sick child in the other room, so I'm going to have to use some kid safe words. But after trauma healing, I can truly get behind the I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you were so hurt and so wounded that you also hurt me. I'm sorry that you didn't have your needs met and that you experienced pain, right? Like the I'm sorry has such a different meaning. For anyone that doesn't know, Ho'oponopono is a beautiful Hawaiian prayer. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I love you. Judy, let me know. There might be a fourth one I'm missing. I think there's a thank you in there as well. I'm sorry. Thank you. Please forgive me. I love you. Something of that nature. But definitely check it out if you have not. It is powerful for releasing. I absolutely would suggest it in conjunction with learning to work with the body and trauma healing. Hannah says it's lovely and works very well with trauma spotting. You're right. Yes. Hannah is a trauma spotter for anyone who is interested in her feedback and her experience. Hannah has been with the trauma spotting community for 8 months now. Hannah, where are we at? Let me know. But she can speak to how powerful and profound the healing is as well. Judy says, I'm sorry, please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. Yes, there it is. Thank you so much. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, my story. Here we go. So like I mentioned, recovered pastor's daughter, very, very religious home. He would tell you he was a non-denominational pastor. Now I come to understand that that just really means that he is above everyone and everything else, that he doesn't identify with a synod or any type of board of directors. He would tell you he answers to God only, and that God speaks directly to him. So he was very much a narcissist. I did not understand narcissism until much later in life, in my 30s, in my probably third or fourth narcissistic relationship. I finally discovered what that was and how to heal from it. Again, that is very traumatizing for anybody who has clients or has experienced narcissism. You absolutely need trauma healing after that. But my father was very big on guilt and shame, right? I will never forget the wagging finger, because he was building a house and cut the top of his finger off, but it didn't actually fully cut the nail bed out. So he had a little hook that grew out of the wagging finger. So it was like this gremlin like finger that would shake in our face. And he would say, you're a sinner, you're shameful, how dare you? I was probably not more than 5 or 6 years old, and I like to tell stories. I have a very creative mind. Obviously, I'm a creator. I would create stories about how I, went on the African safari, and he would come at me as if I was a liar, and how dare I, right? As we know, for anyone who has children, it is highly age appropriate to tell stories around that age. And so the earliest memories I have of him is telling me that I was a sinner and that I was shameful and that I should feel bad for who I was and what I did and any desires that I had. So you add to that, I also had a mother who was codependent, which codependency and narcissism go together very well. And, she was struggling with her own issues. I don't like to blame her for a lot of our experiences, but the lack of support and the tolerance of his behaviors absolutely played a role in my fawning and people pleasing and tolerating and learning to suppress what I needed. So I watched my mother tolerate narcissism and suppress her needs and desires. From there, we jumped out of the frying pan into a fire when she did finally find someone who could get us out of that situation. He was a very large man who was very physically abusive. So we went from emotional narcissistic abuse to physical violence. And in between there was sexual trauma with one of the childcare workers at church. So it just kept compounding for me. Ultimately, at the end of the day, anytime you are mistreated as a child or for a long-term period of time in a toxic relationship or something like the military, the beliefs of unworthiness are bound to set in, right? So there's emotional and physical changes that happen in the brain and body. The limbic system becomes engorged and over relied on because that's where the fear center is, and that's the part of your brain that's supposed to keep you safe. Your memory centers shrink. Your reliance on the intelligent executive function are lessened, and your nervous system becomes highly, highly sensitive, highly, highly attuned to the environment around you, so that you can figure out, who am I, or who do I need to be in this space, who's around me, and how do I keep myself safe, right? So I carried the wounds of I'm not enough, right? I'm not enough. I'm bad is the key word that I discovered in my trauma healing sessions. Gosh, I'm realizing time. I've got like 6 more pages of notes for you guys. So let me know if you need to go. I want to be respectful of your time. I don't have to break on the hour, so we can go a little bit over. I'll get through my story and then try to offer you a little bit more before we break. But for me, the keyword as a coach, as a healer, you will find that there's often keywords, right? It's kind of like the Google search term that triggers the trauma in the body. And so to be bad or to do something bad became my trigger. And I would avoid being a bad person at any cost. That meant avoiding going live. That meant avoiding posting my opinion. That meant avoiding letting people know that I'm a spiritual person and I like to play with crystals and and I'm aware of divinity that moves through my body, right? I self-sacrificed. I gave myself away. I would fawn to the highest extent, especially in relationships. I just wanted somebody to love me, to let me know, to validate me, that to allow me to feel like I was enough to be with, to fight for, to love, to show up for. But no matter how much I conformed, no matter how much I people pleased, no matter how much I fawned, no matter how much I self-sacrificed, no matter how passive or easygoing I was, that was something I thought was my personality, which actually was just a trauma response. No matter how much I shifted and changed myself and I tried to bend myself around what the world wanted from me, I still got hurt. I still was left. I was still abandoned. I was still forgotten. I was still abandoned is really just the only word that really properly describes it. And I would struggle because I couldn't figure out how to get people to love me. I couldn't figure out how to create success in my life. I couldn't figure out how to stop the pain. I had this yearning and this deep urge, soul urge for purpose to help people. I knew that I was here to do something that mattered. And at my lowest point in my childhood, I finally left our home when my stepfather was physically abusive. I told my mom, you need to tell the authorities or I will. And she said, you will not, don't you dare. And if you do, you're no longer welcome in this home. And I said, fine, then I'll leave. And she said, go ahead. You won't survive. And I said, oh yeah, watch me. And that night I crawled out the window of my bedroom, 16 years old. I walked however many miles it was to town late at night in the dark by myself and never went back. I did go back. I didn't go back for to be a child in that home. A couple years later, I went back when my mom was having open heart surgery and had a baby and couldn't hold the baby. And so I helped her for a little bit. And of course, the stepdad was still there. So I quickly left that scenario. But point being, again, that walk to town that night that I left was highly traumatizing. Even to this day, there was a trigger or a program installed in that moment that I'm on my own. Nobody's there for me. I got to figure this all out. I got to make things happen. I was working 2 jobs, no, 3 jobs. I was working 3 jobs and sleeping every other night because one of those jobs was a night auditor at a hotel. And it was primarily out of fear because I didn't know how I was going to pay. I didn't know how to pay for anything. I didn't know how much rent costed or how to pay an electric bill. So that was one of the programs that I had to heal, right? And it carried me pretty far. I went from the lowest point. I had a boyfriend who lived with his mother, who she lived in a trailer park, was very, very poor. At one point, there was no food in the house, and there was literally Kool-Aid without sugar and white bread. And that was my lowest point. And at that point, I remember saying to myself, there's more to life than this, and I know how to make it happen. And so that program of I'll make everything happen, it worked for me for a little bit. I got myself out of there. I moved myself to the next major town, Madison, Wisconsin, for anybody that's familiar. I put myself through college. I got a degree. I got a good job. I eventually was making 6 figures. I was doing all the things. I had pulled myself out of the worst possible scenarios in many, many ways. And yet I didn't realize that I still had porous boundaries. I still had the trauma. I still had the programming. And so lo and behold, my boss in my corporate job threatened my job if I didn't sleep with him. And the man that I married was also a narcissist. And I still was pulling these things into my life. And I'm like, what is it going to take? I could not figure it out. At that point, I was highly spiritual and meditating all the time. I had discovered psychology and neuroscience, and I was studying, the biology of our body and what happens in stress responses and things of that nature. But I had not come yet to understand somatic healing. And that's when the doors blew open for me. That's when I finally was able to get the business started. Like I mentioned the other day, I had tried to start the business before doing trauma healing, and I couldn't. I literally thought I was going to vomit every time I tried to go live or post something. And so it was the trauma healing that really blew the doors open for me, made this possible. And obviously, when I very first started this version of the business 3 years ago, my intention, and it still remains, is to help people step into their purpose. But what I quickly discovered as people were drawn to me, what they needed was trauma healing. And sure enough, what did I experience? What had I gone through? What could I offer them was trauma healing, right? And so that's how we ended up here. It's funny, my therapist jokes, he's like, you have a personal master's in psychology already, just because of my drive and passion for understanding how to work with the brain and body, how to work with the neuroscience, how to work with manifestation and energy and all of these things. And that's kind of my story and how I ended up here. And yet I tell the story because I want you guys to see how, one, the traumas will hold us back. Two, will continue to draw the experiences to us until the traumas are healed. And three, how your purpose, your passion, all of this comes alive once you start to heal. And essentially you're turning your pain into purpose. What you've experienced, what you've gone through, is what you are now equipped to help others with. And you'll see through the process of healing and stepping into your purpose, those are the people that will be drawn to you because you have what they need. Right. So, and of course, is it all worth it now on the other side? Absolutely. Absolutely. I have to tell you, when I first started doing this work, the first couple of trauma spotting sessions, I had, like, it makes me think of like the brain exploding emoji, where I was just like, this is the thing that I have been seeking. Like, I have watched hundreds of thousands of YouTube videos seeking something, like I'm trying to figure out what is it going to take. And when I finally stepped into my purpose, I was like, like the unquenchable thirst is finally quenched. Like, this is what I was born for. This is what I was made for. Like, every cell of your being comes alive. Yes. Thank you, Shelley. Brain exploding. Like, who would have thought this was the thing that I was searching for all along? Right. And with that, not only is it freedom from the corporate world, freedom from the debt slavery system, freedom from narcissists, freedom from any type of it's oppressive, right? We are put in the victim triangle when we have those unhealed wounds, and we're constantly being perpetuated by life. The traumas are being perpetuated, or we're being perpetrated upon, is I think what I was trying to say there. You take your power back. Nothing can touch you. Like, you start to develop this sense of trust in yourself, where the divine is moving through me and I hear guidance on whether I go right or left. So that narcissist that's trying to it's not going to happen. Right. The steps I need to take in my business, clearly laid out. Like, there's just nothing that can compare to your creator's energy in you. Nothing can touch it. And so it's beautiful to be able to step into the life you were made to live, right? So I have to scroll through all of my notes, make sure that I just went off script. So yeah, it was the combination. This is another important point. It was a combination of everything that I had experienced and everything I had gone through, and all of the jobs that I've ever experienced as well, where they come together like a soup. I like to joke that your purpose is it's alchemy, right? It's your soup of life. And you're putting in all of these ingredients, all of your different experiences, all of the different strengths you've developed, but all of the different traumas you've experienced, all of the jobs you've had, and it comes together to make this amalgamation of something that nobody ever could have identified in the pick from this career list. right? We used to talk about the jobs of the 21st century and trying to project what those were going to be. I have fully come to embody the understanding that we will never be able to identify those, because it is this soup of life that we create. Our purpose becomes the jobs of the 21st century that they couldn't figure out. And you can't figure it out because it requires the person, the individual, to put everything together. Right. And that's when it all starts to click for you. That immense sense of rightness and joy that washed over me is possible for everyone. You just have to understand how to work with the body, heal the traumas, and receive the guidance, right? This is how we step into our highest self. This is how we step into our highest timeline. This is the expansion. This is the transformation, but it does require commitment. It does require the willingness to go through the valley to get to the mountaintop, right? So my question for you today is, are you ready? Are you committed? Is this your time? And if not, that's okay, because sometimes we have to get backed into a corner where we feel like, I can't take it anymore. Enough is enough. Now is the time. And if it's that time for you, congratulations. The next step is make the declaration, type it in the comments, say it out loud in your room, scream it like, now is my time. Like, enough is enough is enough. I am committed. This is it. I'm recalibrating, right? Are you ready? And I love Melanie Ann Lair also says, for me, for you, for us. Trauma spotting very, very, very much embodies that. It is for me because I will finally live a life worth living. It is for you because you deserve this too. But man, is it for us. The world needs to understand how to empty out the emotional body, how to empty out the physical body from the blockages, how to step into purpose, how to remember our wholeness, our oneness, our divinity. Right. So what's next is usually the next question I get, like, okay, fine, what do I do? Do I just go quit my job tomorrow? And to that, I would say, only you know what's right for you. If you feel called to jump off the cliff, great. But I don't suggest it, because trauma healing does take time. I talk about that healing arc. There usually is about a year of healing needed before we really feel like, okay, I got this, I'm ready to go. Now, that's not for everyone. If you're already a coach, you're already a healer, you've probably already done a lot of work, because as we do the work works on you. You may only need the 8-week program, and you may already be ready to step into trauma spotting and start becoming a healer. But if you have not yet done that work, if you know you have a significant amount of trauma, you've not yet worked with the body, 8 weeks is not going to be enough. And I want to set you up for success. I cannot tell a lie. This is part of my program. I cannot do the wrong thing. I have such an ingrained level of integrity that I must tell you what it's truly going to require. As much as I want to promise you the quick fix and the fast, easy path to success, I can't. And so you'll have to sort of use your body as the discernment tool to figure out what is right for you. Is the 8-week program, trauma spotting certification, right for you? Great. If not, the year is the option, is the next right option, right? So I'll get into that in a bit, but just really remember, create an exit plan, create a strategy, start with baby steps, and know that no one can tell you what is right for you, right? Only you know what is right for you. That's, like I was saying with the clients earlier, we've got to let them lead, because only they have access to the divine guidance within them, right? Finding your purpose takes time. It is a process of alchemy. Like soup, you're going to add a little bit of salt. You're going to add a little bit of water. You're going to let it marinate over time. You're going to taste it tomorrow, see how it tastes, right? For people who thought they wanted to get into a career that helps people. So they got into nursing, but then they quickly discovered, I don't like the really stark lights and the long hours, right? So you may move from nursing into more holistic methods of naturopathy, right? So it really just depends on you and your soup, and understanding what works for you and what doesn't, and not throwing the baby out with the bathwater, but bringing things together to kind of make that amalgamation, right? There is not going to be a 5-year roadmap. There is not going to be a checklist with all of the major milestones. Unfortunately, as a previous corporate strategy product manager, that was my thing. Like, I want to know what's the 5-year plan. But the divine doesn't work that way. We get the next right step. You get one. Sometimes the very few will get the vision of the future, but again, you don't get the stuff in between. You just get the next right step. And so the process of understanding how to heal your trauma and step into your purpose is twofold. One, do the healing, then try to work on the business. Then the business is going to trigger you. So then you go back and do more healing. You do the healing, you get the guidance, you take the action, you get triggered, you do more healing. Get some more guidance, take more action, get triggered, do the healing, right? This has been my process, and this is the process for all of the clients that I've ever worked with, right? So you will be tested. I cannot promise you it will be easy. All of your fears will be brought up, right? This is like the worst sales pitch ever because I'm not going to be able to lie to you. I want to set proper expectations, but know that when you face all of your greatest fears, you are set free and you are healed, you are whole, you are complete, you're fulfilled, you're valuable, you're making a difference in the world, you are helping make the world a better place, and you become the powerful being that you were made to be, right? The universe will test your commitment. It will see, are you going to quit or are you committed? Only you can be the decider, right? Only you can sense and see where your resistance is. Only you can realign energetically. Only you can feel where there's a little bit of a misalignment. You will be given the gift of the mirror to help you see your block, and it'll feel a little bit prickly, but it's all about the perspectives and the resiliency and the distress tolerance that we build through our healing that make us powerful enough to move through these things. And what used to take you down for months or years may only be definitely not more than a week, days, hours, minutes even. And Hannah, I know you can attest to this, right? So let me check in. Yeah, Hannah says one of her keywords, right? No one listens or cares. And then Shelly says, just got an affirmation notification. Everything is unfolding in perfect timing. I trust, I believe, I receive. Absolutely. Beautiful. I love that. Perfect. Okay. So then the next thing that'll come up is the thought of, am I ready? Am I ready for this? Am I ready to step in my purpose? Am I ready for my healing? Just know that very rarely is anybody ever ready. The getting ready comes to getting that feeling of being backed into a corner, right? Like, I can't take it anymore. I've tried everything. Nothing's working. I either try this or I give up, right? That's usually ready. And so if you want to wait until you get to that point, only you know what's right for you. But what I'm saying here is you're never going to feel ready, right? We're never ready to go live or to step into our purpose or to completely shift our entire life, right? When I stepped into this business, I filed for divorce at the same time I quit my job. How does that seem ready? I don't recommend it, by the way, but what I can assure you is you will be provided for every single step of the way, every single time, because you are opening to the divine support and guidance. You are opening to your feminine, magnetic, receptive energy, right? You will be cared for. Just think about the birds. They never struggle for food. They never search for water. The trees don't have to go out and find their water. They are perfectly provided for every single time, and you will be too. Cannot tell you how many times where I didn't know where the next dollar was going to come from or how I was going to buy groceries. And then I would get the thought, go look in the mailbox and there's a check for a few $1,000s, right? Remember, source is your source, nothing else, right? So set clear intentions, declare to the universe, right? This is my time. I'm doing this now. Say it out loud. And know when you make that declaration, you have launched your rocket of desire, as Abraham Hicks likes to say, right? And buckle your seatbelt because things will shift, things will change, and just know that things are not falling apart; they are falling into place. Know that when you ask for something, ask and you shall receive, right? You will get it, but you're going to have to become the person who can receive it in the process. And so that is the path of healing, right? I have quite a bit more that I'm just going to jump over. So let me know if there's any questions. If anybody's interested in a Q&A tomorrow, we can definitely do that. I can schedule that in. Just kind of reviewing things to see if there's anything major I talked about or I didn't talk about. I guess the only other thing before we break is the neural pathway reprogramming is an important part of this. So you can't reprogram the neural pathways without healing the trauma first, because the trigger, the trauma, the subconscious beliefs and programs will prevent the neural pathways from fully being rewired. But after we've removed the traumas from the body, we're building resilience and distress tolerance and all of these things. We've removed most of the, or reprogrammed most of those subconscious beliefs, then you will also need neural pathway reprogramming. And that is because, just like a well-worn pathway, the brain is still used to walking that pathway, even though the trauma and the trigger is not there. So it'll be easier, it'll be possible, which it may have felt impossible before, but you will be able to reprogram the neural pathways. And I teach how to do that as well, but just kind of notice, right? It's like the thought habit, right? Our brain sends that impulse to that neural pathway very quickly and easily and habitually. And so that's part of the healing, that we'll have to reprogram that. So that is all I have for you today. I am going to give you some details around, if you want to work together, if you want to continue the conversation. Obviously, my original set of notes was 83 pages long. Today we're on, I don't know, page 23. So clearly there's a lot more. There's a lot more to understand. There's so much more to go in depth on the trauma responses and how they show up, how to spot them in ourselves, how to see them in our clients, and how to start to see those patterns and behaviors so that we can rewire them. Not to mention the need for community, right? We need the beautiful mirrors of the other. We need relationship. We are not meant to do this alone. We cannot heal in isolation, right? Remembering that especially complex trauma is a relational wound. And so relationships are required to be able to heal. And that is what this is all about. So if you'd like to work with me, if you'd like to continue the conversation, I have two options for you. The first one is for coaches and healers. Like I said, it is an 8-week program where I will dive deep into how does the brain change? How does the body change? How do we work with the nervous system? How do we heal and remove those blocks? What are the trauma responses? And I will also teach you trauma spotting. I will teach you how to work with the body, how to calm the nervous system, how to spot these tricky, insidious little interconnections that the subconscious brain has created. It's incredible. There was one that just came up the other day. Yesterday, the client was refusing to go get his wisdom teeth pulled because he's so afraid of the dentist. And for some reason, we went into the body, we were processing, and for some reason, we've worked together for 9 months now. This trauma has never come up. He had swallowed a flower. This is the craziest thing. The pointer was pointed over here at the flowers, and it reminded him of a flower that he had pulled off a plant and swallowed. And his parents were trying to pull it out of his mouth and pulling his lips back. And that memory, 9 months of trauma healing, just comes up now in relation to the dentist and why he can't go there. So this is how crazy these little things are that hide in our subconscious, in our body, and why we need the time to focus on them and to remove them. So anyways, 8-week program, go through all the brain and body stuff, go through all of the trauma responses, and then I will teach you how to do trauma spotting. This will also include a new module. Hannah, be on the lookout. I have a download as of yesterday for a new module on intuition improvement, or so increasing your intuition, because intuition is a huge part of this work, being able to receive that divine guidance and offer that to the client. I will teach you about the energy healing, how to do the trauma spotting, how to get in the body, how to use the eye position, and how to increase your intuition so you can receive the guidance to deliver to the client. That is the 8-week program for coaches and mentors. If you are in need of healing and you are not yet a coach or mentor, you have not yet leveraged somatic healing, then the year-long program is for you. That will also include all of the same education, the whole course, right? So how does it change your brain and body? What are the trauma responses and how to do trauma spotting? But it will also include one-to-one weekly trauma spotting and business coaching. right? So we will meet for at least an hour every week. I never end on just the hour. If we are in process of healing a trauma, we will wrap up that trauma before we break. So I say an hour, but we do what it takes. And so there's guidance around how to pick your offer, how to create an offering, how to do an event like this, how to write posts, languaging, how to identify your client and what language they need, Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok strategies. And that, of course, is in conjunction with the trauma healing. So we'll go through that process, like I said, of what did I say? We heal the trauma, we get the guidance, we take the action, we get triggered, we go back to healing the trauma. And that is the process. So your purpose is my purpose. I am here for you, not only to help you heal, but to step into your highest timeline, step into your abundance birthright, and achieve the life of your dreams. So any questions on that today? I will drop a link below. If you have any questions, let me know. I will drop a link in the group. I will drop a link below this live session. And also I will offer a Q&A. So if anybody wants a Q&A tomorrow, let me know. We can go live on Zoom and have a chit chat there. All right. Anything else? Let me check the comments here quick. Shelly, you will be cared for. Absolutely. Every single time. Food will always be on your table. You will always have a roof over your head. That is so beautiful. And you're so very welcome. Thank you for being here. All right. I love you, my friends. I will see you on the next one. Namaste. Blessings.